Alright guys, so we finally have our first showing here of the deck that we've all been talking about. You read my articles that I've been saying for the past couple days that ever since, past couple weeks, that ever since the release of Dark Ascension, I really wanted to see this, what I'm going to call Gond Guard deck. That's the deck that brings in the Midnight Guard. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield, untap this Midnight Guard. Attached to it, the Presence of Gond, that enchants creature and gives them the ability of tap to put a 1/1 creature token into play. So it basically works like the better modern version, the Splinter Twin version, to create an infinite number of tokens. So, this is something that I've been going on about and said it's going to be really great, and I can't wait to see it. It is a combo deck, that's kind of great. It increases the odds of what it has been. We've currently been looking at basically Storm being the only option for combo in Pauper, so this helps balance out the metagame a little better. But it could become a significantly dominant force if it catches on, I think. This is something similar to a deck that I've been working on. Unfortunately, I did not have the cards available, so I had not been able to actually put it together and write about it. But that's okay, because it looks like I've been beaten to it, and I'm more than happy with that. This is not really an original deck idea by me. I honestly could not credit who it went to, so I'm pretty sure that this guy did not create it, but I am not going to say that for certain. There has been a deck list like this, green-white, that has showed up a couple times. It's a bit of an old deck, and it uses the Wardens here. And the Evangels to, sorry, that's my phone there, to basically create a whole ton of tokens, and because of these Wardens, it runs 4 Essence Warden as well as 4 Soul Warden, and even 2 of Soul's Attendant, and with those you can just generate such a disgusting amount of life based on the fact that you are putting out all of these tokens. And you notice these are all fantastically cheap creatures. They all come in at 1 cost. That's great. You can play a whole bunch of those Wardens themselves to gain your life up. Now we also have the Mycoderm. I'm going to say Mycoderm. Please forgive pronunciation. But this is really a great card. It works as an awesome win condition. We got a lot of these fungus coming around during the Time Spiral block, and I was a big fan of Time Spiral block. Had a lot of fun with fungus in draft. And these salads, they really this guy was pretty awesome when he came out in Planar Chaos. You see here he has, I don't know if you can see it in this video, but he gains the spore counters, and with him you can create a 1/1 token, and then you sacrifice a sapling to give each fungus and each sapling +1/+1 until end of turn. And that's kind of the key there, is that it does include the tokens that you create. Those get +1/+1 as well. The deck also runs 4 Sprout Swarms, and thanks to the convoke ability on that, you can put out a ton of tokens, just creating a massive army. Even again, without this combo here, the Presence of Gond and the Midnight Guard, you can create such an army of tokens, such an incredible amount of life gain that it's not even funny. Now, when I was working on my list, I was working on taking out these Spider Silk Armor, and after kind of looking at it several times, I've realized kind of the folly of my ways. While the original deck lists that I have seen before this new combo came out had 4 Spider Silk Armors, I think that's a little much. 3 is still probably good. It is kind of an important card. A little bit heavy casted as far as this deck is concerned, coming in at 3 converted mana cost. But it's really a necessary thing. Kind of the only board wipes that we have available to us in Pauper basically comes down to Echoing Decay. Echoing Decay is only giving creatures -2/-2. Some mono black decks will also run Nausea, and that is the sorcery speed spell that gives all creatures -1/-1. So by playing the Spider Silk Armor and giving all of your creatures +0/+1, you've basically put them out of range of those spells. The other board wipes that we can run into, there is, Crypt Rats. And I'm just going through the black ones. These are really my favorites. There's options in green and red as well. But even those, they come in at 1 to 2 damage at a time. So if you get out multiple Spider Silk Armors, then you have put those creatures out of range for, any kind of mass destruction spell. Again, I was talking Crypt Rats. That leaves everything still in range, but it does require a lot of mana. And actually, a lot of mono black control decks these days are leaving them in the sideboard. I think that's a mistake. I think you should try and run a list that has at least 1 main deck. just to give you a little more of an edge. If you play a game and you're assuming that you're going to lose game one, round one, game one. Sorry, tripping over words here. If you go into it assuming you're gonna lose game one, that's not a good place to be in. You want to be putting yourself in an opportunity to win every game that you go into, not waiting for sideboard. Sure, you can't help it all the time, but if you rely on just winning game 2 and 3 and then run into mana flood, mana screw, any of that kind of stuff, get hosed on anything, then you're out of luck. It's never a good idea to just give up game one. Even if you're outmatched. But so this is a pretty strong deck, and I imagine quite hard to play against. It may be a little frustrating even with all this life gain. Talking about pumping up the toughness, you also get Veteran Armor, another great addition to this deck. And between the two of these cards, the Spider Silk Armor and the Veteran Armor, you've really been able to pump up the defensive creatures, and just make this deck really hard to deal with. So, looking at the lands here, it's pretty self-explanatory. You get the Garden for adding yet more tokens to deal with, a little more life gain to go through. Sideboard's pretty interesting. You get the Benevolent Unicorn, that's great. This deck is running 2 copies of Prismatic Strands in the main deck. I think that's great. The flashback is going to be a little bit difficult to get into because of the fact that the tokens are green. But you do have a lot of options for white creatures, because of the Warden, the Guard, sorry, not Essence Warden, the Soul Warden here, but the Guard, you have the Microderm, the Evangel will count, and you have the Armor, and these main deck creatures, not so much the tokens, will be able to make up for that flashback ability. But this is a great card. A lot of decks running white will bring it in for, the matchup against Storm. It's really kind of your best answer for beating out, especially the Grape Shot Storm deck. It's great to have, and having that in the main deck really gives you an advantage going to most games. But you also get here Benevolent Unicorn, that allows you to reduce the damage by 1. I guess this would be good for the Mirror matchup. I honestly, again, have not run this deck, but I can imagine that can help. Great for getting it out versus the Empty the Warren Storm. So you have some great options there. Next you have Gleeful Sabotage, which is a great card. You can think of some other options in the common slot for removing artifacts in green. There's a lot of stuff out there, but this is great because it does have that Conspire ability, and with all the creatures you have and stuff, it will be easily cast that way. Moment's Peace for aggro, you got a 3rd Prismatic Strands, and I found this is a great card. You check out some of my earlier videos, I did run a deck with this, and I found it was a great card against, even a lot of the aggro decks, because you run into so much stuff. The aggro stuff is just mono-colored. You have mono-green. Aggro has become really strong recently. I've been looking through these past couple of days, and you've seen a lot of showings by mono-green, and rightfully so. Goblins is mono-colored. Any of the mono-blue control decks are mono-colored creature attacks. You have mono-white aggro, mono-black control. Just basically every monocolored deck, there's one of each color that is strong and will be trouble to deal with. So I think Prismatic Strands is a great card for almost any matchup. Again, going just kind of gushing about why this is in the main deck, and it's a great thing to have even an extra one on the sideboard. Deck also brings in another Spider Silk Armor. Kind of an interesting choice. I would have thought between the 4 armors and the 3 main deck armors that it really would have been okay at that. And that you could maybe find a better use for this card slot here. But, again, I have not run this deck, so I'm just kind of speculating at this point in time. Most mono-black decks are only running, I want to say, probably 2 Echoing Decays in the main deck. Maybe a 3rd in the sideboard. Personally, I like to run a full copy, in my deck somewhere, whether it's main deck or sideboard. I'd like to have a full set of Echoing Decay. The one thing you can run into problems with would be Echoing Truth, is the blue bounce card. So that's gonna give you some issues. But so having this extra armor, I don't think it's entirely necessary. I think the hardest matchup would probably be mono black because it does have a lot of the options for destroying all your creatures. But I guess it is a beneficial thing for that matchup. I feel like, I don't know, it's 8 cards is a bit much, but someone can feel free to tell me I'm wrong. Someone who has gotten the chance to run this deck. I do plan shortly to actually put this deck together and give it a run for myself. I do like having that option of playing decks, because I find the best way to learn a deck and how to beat it is going to be by actually playing through it. So then you bring in Thermokarst to, of course, a little land destruction to deal with the Fissure Storm decks, and it also take down anything with the, Cloud Post lands. So there you go, there you have it, and I do apologize, I'm giving, I'm not even going to Revo Mag, I guess that's how you say this player's screen name, but, I'm not even going to really go on about this, but, credit to him. If someone else has showed with this first, credit to them as well. I did not catch that, and I apologize, but congratulations on this. I'm very glad to see this deck show up, and I think it could be interesting. Between this and the fact that we've had such an insurgence the past couple of days of mono green aggro, I think we really need to be looking out for a much heavier aggro package, and maybe even bring about the rise of Dimir Post even more, and mono black control, because those two are usually the heaviest decks out there when it comes to options for direct creature control. When dealing with this deck, it's going to be very hard to deal with the tokens. You may have to allow them to gain a lot of life. I would say that you're looking at kind of the biggest targets here: the Evangel, the Mycoderm, and the Guard. These are going to be the hardest things to deal with. So you're going to probably want to kill these as soon as they come out. Again, going to be very hard. So the kill spells in black, you're going to have troubles getting around the armor, but what you want to basically look for is when the presence comes out targeting the Midnight Guard. Very simple, kill it. If you're playing against this deck, try and hold on to a kill spell just in case, because that is an option to go infinite between those two. So there you go. I just wanted to take a quick video here and showcase this deck, and give people an idea of what they may have to be looking forward to in the upcoming events.